What's up, Audiophiles? It's Gary at Audiophile Zone, and I'm here with somebody I've been waiting for a long time, Dr. Joe Makkerh of Baetis Audio. How you doing, Joe?
Hey, Gary. I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me on here.
So how's things up in the 51st state?
Yeah, sane is
That's a
what.
good answer. So
Yeah,
what everybody's going to want to hear first, what's the impact of the tariffs? What's going on there?
right. So I guess the short answer is I think nobody knows, including the people who are implementing them. But what I can say is that our products are computer based. So as such, they are USMCA compliant. And that means at the moment there aren't supposed to be tariffs. But what I do know is that the couriers and customs people, nobody really knows right now what's going on. But so far, my stuff has been arriving and going, and it's been fine as usual.
So no pricing changes for now, or
Not until we know what's actually going on, because it's very easy to say, "Oh, we're going to put this tariff on Canada now," but unless you have all the people at the border aware of it and policy changes in writing, you can say whatever you want, right, until it's implemented. Because and this idea of changing your mind every other day, it just doesn't make any sense, because nobody can keep up with the utterings of one single person like that.
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, so the good news is prices for now are the same,
Yeah.
and we shall see. But if you're thinking about it, maybe you should order one now, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I mean, we also, to mitigate the tariffs if they are implemented, are thinking of splitting our cost into service and materials, and only the materials are crossing the border, so we can reduce the tariffs that people will be paying if they ever are implemented.
Okay, that's great. So let's go into it.
Right.
So we've got the wrong slide here, but
There
there we go.
we
So
go.
this is John Mingo of Baetis Audio. Talk a little about John.
Yeah. So John, an incredibly complex guy. Just as you and I have only first actually met each other in, like, face to face today, John and I never met face to face in, either teleconferencing or actually a meeting. John was an economist, so he had a PhD in economics, and he was advisor to more than one president, certainly Reagan, for economic policy. And because he was very high up in the Federal Reserve, and he had an office in the White House, which I know that his sons were very proud to see when they were really young. Yeah, this was back in the 80s.
Right, right.
Dad's got an office in the White House, so that was pretty cool. And he never did anything in half measures, right? So he was an expert marksman and a really expert fly fisherman, as well as being one of the top economists in the world. And so anything that he was passionate about, he wanted to be the best at, but then also share that, right? So he wrote a book on fly fishing and was in the process of writing a second one, I think, when he passed away a couple of years ago. He also, with his expert marksmanship, used to train police forces in shooting. And then his other passion was for music. And when he unlocked the secret for digital music playback, he wanted to do more than just keep it to himself. He wanted to share that and form Baetis Audio. And so,
Right, I know, and he was definitely dogmatic. It was his way or his way.
yeah,
And I remember talking to him when he first started about naming the company Baetis, which is the fly fisherman's one of the fly lures or something like that.
yeah.
I
It's
said,
the genus of the
Right, right.
The fly, it's a mayfly, I believe, and the larva of this mayfly is what they use for fly fishing lures. I mean, some people, and so it's a very popular one, and that's what he wanted to call it. Yeah.
Right. I told him, do not name the company that. Name it something so people know what it is. And then, of
Yeah.
course, you see what happened.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. He did it. No, it's funny because when he would ship a system, there would be a sheet of paper at the top just saying, "Stop, stop." The more you think you know about computers, the more likely you are to screw it up. And you know, um, he had some ways of doing things, and as you said, it was his way or his way.
Yeah.
And he found it difficult to see that other people may not want to jump through all the hoops they want for, you know, the tiniest perceived improvement in the sound quality, which for him was the number one thing, right?
Right.
So yeah, he always wanted things to be done in a certain way. And frankly, I was shocked when I saw this, and I was like, how do customers put up with this? Because I originally was hired to help him deal with
Yeah.
customers.
Let's move on. Let's move on to your background here.
Right. Yeah. So, well, me, I'm from Britain. I've lost a lot of my accent having lived here for about 28 years now, 27 years. And so I was a cell and molecular biologist. I went to Cambridge to do my undergraduate studies there. And then I did cancer research for my PhD at Cambridge. I came over to Montreal in Canada to do further health related research. So I was working on arthritis, and then neuroscience was a big one for many, many years, right? And eventually I decided to, after trying my hand at industry, as well, I decided to be more involved with the students and be an academic administrator. And so that's what I was doing. I was running a neuroscience program in McGill University, and then the MBA program at Concordia University here. I was the assistant director of that. And I decided, you know what, I want to try my hand at business studies as well. So after being the assistant director of an MBA program, I actually became a student in the same program. And that's when John got hold of me. John, so the Baetises of back in the day all ran JRiver. They had to run JRiver, no other software. And as you know, JRiver Media Center is incredibly capable, but with that ability, you know, with the great power comes great responsibility, right? With the amount of stuff that JRiver could do, you needed to think a certain way, and you needed to be able to work that software. And fortunately for me, I used to be a huge home theater buff. There's a 120-inch screen behind me right there that you can see, and so I was really into JRiver for that purpose, and I knew maybe about 40% of its workings, which made me a world-class expert, really, right? And so John came onto the forums looking for someone to be able to help with customer service using JRiver. And so we spoke on the phone, and he was happy with me. So that's how I started working
Wow. So I
with
didn't know he found you. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
I
So that's
never knew
how
the backstory on that. Yeah.
yeah. So I figured, look, you know, I was just helping people for free anyway on the forums, and it would just be an extension of that. You know, instead of being on the JRiver forums, I'd actually be talking to people, and it's something that I could do kind of part time in the evenings and weekends. And so yeah, I joined on, and I think um, the type of service that people were getting, it was very strongly in contrast to what John was dishing out, and so it immediately made an impact. You know, he got lots of feedback. People were really happy with the kind of service that I gave, and you know, being, I guess, a scientist, also perfectionist in many ways. I kind of give everything my all as well. And the idea that someone might be unhappy with a Baetis product, I took that really seriously, even though it wasn't my company. That's just the way I do things. I kind of have this loyalty kind of thing going on. And so, yeah, I worked and worked and worked until the customers were satisfied, rather than whatever my allocated hours were for that person. So I kind of, billed John 5 hours, but had spent 12 hours with someone, over the course of a week or so, because, but yeah, it worked out really well. People were very happy with the level of service. And I must say, we become quite close working with customers because music is such an emotional thing. And when you've given that, gift to someone, they do, we do kind of bond, and it's really good because it means that I understand their system and their needs and can cater to those more. So, that was something that I always enjoyed doing, talking to the customers.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Baetis computers themselves.
Sure.
Now, we'll talk about some of the things that make the Baetis different and special.
Right. Right. So, one thing that people don't understand about a lot of digital music servers, players, streamers is they are computers, right? They are computers with an operating system, and some hide that operating system as much as they can, and others don't. And when we started out, we were just running a Windows operating system, and there were good reasons to have it, and lots of reasons not to have it as well. But so essentially, our systems are computers. Now, today, we can run things completely headlessly, just like all the other people. You don't need a screen or a keyboard or a mouse. But what has not changed is that the underlying structure and components are like some of the most powerful ones that you can get in the industry. So we don't just use a dedicated screaming chip that costs a couple of dollars and is going to be working flat out for just the one task. We have a full desktop processor that may cost $500 to put in, made by Intel or AMD, that has multiple cores, and that makes a difference because when the harder a system works, the more electrical noise it's generating, right? The harder the CPU works, the more interference you get in the digital music stream, which you may not be able to hear as glitches, but you hear, psychoacoustically as something is not, it doesn't sound as good as it should or could, right? It's not the perfect digital stream that has no flaws in it. And so by using really powerful chips that are just working at under 10% of their capacity, sometimes under 1% of their capacity, we have a very noise-free, interference-free system. And coupled with that, we have all the power cabling, all the power supplies are external on our systems, with very few exceptions, which we might talk about a little later. And these keeping the big power supplies outside the system reduces that same electromagnetic frequency interference, common mode noise. All of that is outside the system and not inside. And then we also use very good quality cables inside for power transmission and for audio transmission. And all of the outputs that we have are galvanically isolated. And talking of that, John Mingo started out with using the AES EBU output, that was on a daughter board. So away again from the motherboard that has all sorts of components on it. And that's connected through very high quality shielded cabling. And this daughter board galvanically isolates. So what that means is that it's a separate system. The only thing connecting the motherboard to the daughter board is the audio cabling. So no power transmission or any other kind of data other than just the audio signal. And then the daughter board does its magic, and then what comes out is one of the sweetest sounds you will hear from an AES EBU or a SPDIF output. So that's how the company got started. And then when I came in, we stopped doing things the John way, and it was, have it your way. We will try to do what you want without compromising audio quality. So now, we've been doing a lot of customization for our customers, how much storage they want, what kind of DAC they have, what kind of outputs they have. So that's what we do. And I guess, I've already talked about the support that people want as well. So we're really focused on audio quality. I've talked about the AES outputs. The other is that USB. Now, we could talk for ages about USB, but now we offer the best USB outputs in the industry as well.
Right. And I will want to emphasize the point of it's got some of the best support in the industry, which is very important for a complex product like this, because Baetis will configures it. They can go in the back door and log in and make sure it's configured correctly. So this is really important for people. They don't want to be messing around.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, exactly. Even today, a customer asked, hey, can I play Sirius XM on my Baetis? And now this is something that he has, he didn't care about the audio quality so much, but he has a Linux-based system. So one that has no, you don't need a screen, you just need your tablet to play your Roon music or, or other software. And so what we did was, with my technical guy here, we found a way to make Baetis's have airport available on them. So now any music or anything that you play on your phone, you can stream to the Baetis. So his Sirius XM now works. So we did that in a day. We wanted a new functionality. We did that. Andy Quint wanted to play Atmos music, and we added that and found a way for him to be able to search his music on a different computer using his phone. So we have that level of customization, but also, support. We take responsibility for our stuff, and you've seen that yourself, and that's the way to build long-term customer satisfaction, and that helps me in the long run. We try not to, yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the models.
Sure. Right, so we've got 3 tiers of models, right? There's the Prodigy, which is more entry level, but still extremely high quality. The Revolution is the mid-range, and then the Reference. And the main differences between the Prodigy and Revolution is the type of wiring and the daughter boards that we use for our AES. And then some of the options in USB outputs that are available. And then the Revolution to Reference gap in audio quality is smaller, but there is a decided gap there as well. And that the difference there is that the daughter boards are more shielded in the reference systems. The cabling is even higher standard, and linear power supplies are included in the price of the reference units, which there are options in all our models, but in the Reference they are included. And then we have more powerful processors, greater storage flexibility, and service packages. So that's the reference systems right at the top there. We have the Reference Mingo series that have additional capabilities as well, with even lower noise floor for the networking and for the USB outputs as well.
Okay, let's talk about what's in the future for Baetis.
Right. So we're always on the search for 3 things, I guess. One is the holy grail of that audio quality. We already keep hearing we're the best in the business on that, but there's always improvements. And so, that's one thing that we're looking for always. The other is usability. we're always working to improve that, because that was a criticism back in the day when people had to use Windows operating system. We're making things simpler and simpler and adding more functionality and making it all tablet based and looking to make it even prettier and a nicer experience. And then the third thing is always how to improve the customer service aspect of it. And honestly, in that one, I think it's basically tied in with the other two, so that I have to do a little bit less of it. Right? Is I think
Okay.
we're already reaching a point where it's you can't really, if you've heard of Baetis, you've heard of the business. If you've heard of the business, you've heard of the customer support, right? That's the reputation. All our reviews mention that, and applaud the way we do things. So how are we going about these things? Well, for the sound quality, we've now found that the high end USB cards that are available from JCAT and SOTM, have really reached the standard where we think that they are as good as or better than the AES EBU that we started the company with. Now, there are add-on expenses that customers can put in their systems if they want a USB system, but because the USB is very flexible and capable, there are things that you can do with it, and we're also looking at we are working with HQ Player, which is putting it simplistically, it's an upsampling software that takes your music and on the fly upsamples it to either DSD or a higher sample rate. But it does actually a lot more than that, and it changes, just improves the quality of the music to our ears. Right? It's just phenomenal. I was always very skeptical about it until I tried it, and now almost everyone that I know who has tried it, they balk at the cost of it, but then once they hear it, they have to have it. And so that's something that we are trying to use more of. And the beauty of it is that you don't need to, it doesn't have to be USB. It still works with AES as well, up to 192, and will qualitatively improve the sound of your music. And that's something that, we always offer as an option. It's been reviewed extremely well. All our customers have loved it so far. So that's one thing that we're integrating into our systems. And then the other thing that we are looking at is introducing a two box model. So where we have a separate Roon core, and then the Baetis as an endpoint. Currently, all Baetises can be the Roon core and the endpoint, right, as well. And we can do that because we use powerful processors that are multi-core that can handle these tasks. And Roon, introduced this model originally because they wanted to sell underpowered Roon cores that do one thing,
Right.
right? And so our systems can do both, but some people don't want to leave a Baetis on all the time, or they want to have a separate Roon core. And so we have a model where we can build a Roon core and the endpoint as a separate one. In the slide, I think if that's visible to everyone, in the slide, on the second shelf down from the top, you'll see the two boxes side by side there, right? And one of them is a Roon core and the other is an endpoint. And what we can do with this is have a very relatively inexpensive endpoint, right? That can play and still be a Roon. It can be a Roon core if you want it to, but then if you want to up the game and have a separate Roon core that sounds like a reference system or a revolution system, you can add this extra box that will be a Roon core, which can serve your whole house. It's relatively low powered. You can have all your Roon endpoints all over the house if you want to, running off this and not off the Baetis endpoint. And if you want to take it to the next level, you can make it your HQ Player processor, which requires a lot of grunt. And And what that does is it keeps the endpoint, the processor and the endpoint running very, very, minimally, because all the grunt work is being done separately outside
Right,
the system.
right.
And
That's the
yeah,
beauty of the Rune model, and
yeah,
I will point out the fact that these things are not easy to configure, especially HQ Player and the
yeah,
bazillion filters. And Joe is an expert at this kind of thing, so it can save you just hours and hours of frustration because they do this all the time.
yeah. So we find the balance between, the what your DAC is capable of, what HQ Player is capable of, keeping the systems running in their specs so you're not making them run too hot or use too much power. And so we find that balance with the settings for each person's systems and what they're capable of. So a T plus A DAC might be able to do DSD 1024, whereas I don't know, a shit DAC, right, can only do 192
Right.
PCM, and we'll max out the settings that we think are going to sound the best without that can be run long term sustainably day in day out.
Okay, so we're gonna end up this session. I think we're gonna have to get you back at some point to do some more.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
it was a great introduction. It was great meeting you, kind of, face to face.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll be talking soon.
Okay. Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Dr. Joe.
Thank you, Gary. Take care. Oh, wow.